Get started. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Beans Route Tech webinar series. I'm Pam from Beans Route, but before I came here, I spent 30 plus years at FedEx. At one point, I had over 100 drivers and was dispatching an average of 80 plus routes a day. Shivam Shah from Beans Recruiting is here, and he was a contractor in Austell, Georgia, with over 80 drivers and dispatching 50 routes daily. We're here to talk about recruiting. Now, if you have any questions during this presentation, please type them in the Q&A section and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. Well, now let me ask you a question. What do you think the number one challenge that faces all contractor service providers? Yes, finding and retaining great quality employees. Every single contractor faces the same issue year-round. Prior to peak, contractors are encouraged to overhire drivers for the pending increase in volume. However, many current issues nationwide made that harder to find viable candidates. Once peak was over, most CSPs started downsizing due to the decrease in the volume. But now, with national gas prices well above $4 a gallon, the volume will be increasing again as people rely more on online retailers versus driving to the store. Based on my experience as a former contractor, no contractor should stop hiring just because the volume has dropped. Usually the decrease in volume is temporary, and most drivers were probably working 6 days during peak. I can guarantee they are tired and they would love to return to a 5-day work week. But even if you have some drivers who don't mind working 6 days, you still need coverage for vacations and sick calls. The 7-day model that FedEx Ground implemented a few years ago is not going away. If you stay current in the news, you know that everyone is hiring. People have more choices now than ever before of what they want to do and where they want to work. You could place ads everywhere, and out of the candidates that respond, you'll be lucky if 25% get through the First Advantage process. And if you're trying to find and process these candidates yourself, you will literally be taking on a full-time job, monitoring the ads, sending emails, checking First Advantage for status updates, uploading documents, and so on. Well, we at Beans know the industry, and we can help vet candidates so you won't have to. We have extensively researched what is wanted and needed in order to hire and retain great candidates. We enlisted the help of AOs, BCs, and drivers to narrow down some key aspects in the hiring process and how you can make sure that these candidates stick. Now, Shivam's going to give an in-depth look into the recruiting process. Shivam, take it away.
Thank you so much, Pam. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Just to give some background to the objective of this conversation, over the last couple of years, we've helped hundreds of contractors hire thousands of drivers. And what Pam and I were thinking was basically to spend the next 30 minutes with everyone and just impart stuff that we've learned and have a discussion around it. And hopefully it'll help you recruit better, as we all know that is one of the biggest challenges contractors face, and things don't seem to be getting easier. All right, so.
Agreed.
It's just, it's just how it is. So, everyone I speak with and every contractor, and this, I'm sure everyone on this call can face the same issues, is attrition. Drivers just seem to be leaving. It seems to be a revolving door. That's what I keep hearing from everyone. I want to tell you that the national average, as per the labor statistics, is 74% attrition per year. So while you might think that you have the worst churn, it's just how it is. It's unfortunately the way the industry is built out. A lot of the drivers that come in are unfortunately, they're not looking at this like a career. People do not expect to be spending 4, 5, 10 years in this industry. For them, this is just a job that's paying the bills. and they're not looking to build themselves up. And that's unfortunately the demographic that you're dealing with. And that's what we have to work with. If you've got a team of 25 drivers, a 75% attrition means you need to hire 1 to 2 people every month. And this is not accounting for bad apples that you want to get rid of. This is not accounting for volume increases, peak. This is not accounting for COVID outbreaks in your terminal. That is the reality that every FedEx contractor has to live with. And hopefully the information that we can provide can help you address some percentage points of that attrition. I'm sorry. So in Q4 of 21, we placed 2,800 existing FedEx drivers with other contractors. That means there were 2,800 people who've driven for a particular contractor who were looking to change jobs. That tells me a very important part. That means that 2,800 people wanted to do the same job for pretty much the same pay, but for a different contractor. And one of the things that we make sure we do is ask every single existing FedEx driver why he's leaving. And you're on the screen, you can see the main reasons why people told us that they were leaving. Pay, schedule is obviously one of the largest. A lot of people, believe they deserve more, and that's why they look. That's natural. A small percentage of people are obviously relocating. A few people don't like the trucks that they're driving. A lot of people don't like the routes that they've been given. Those are things a contractor does not have control over. We understand that the way the FedEx ISP model is, there's only so much in terms of pay that you can give, and there's only so much you can do about the routes that you drive. However, the interesting things that we've learned in this conversation is that 22% drivers believe, quote unquote, that they got shorted on their pay. And 10% of them also didn't enjoy the culture in the team. That is 30% of the drivers that left existing FedEx contractors to join other contractors. And that, I believe, gives us gives us an insight which we can act on. The two things that a FedEx contractor can change is culture and transparency. All too often, I hear this term that, hey, I got shorted by my past contractor. He cut me on pay. He didn't pay me right. That's why I'm shifting. In my conversation with hundreds of contractors, the one thing that I have understood is every FedEx contractor is an honest business owner who does not intend to short the drivers. They realize the importance a driver pays in their business. But unfortunately, there does seem to be a disconnect. There does seem to be a deficit in trust. And the only way I believe that that can be fixed is transparency, is improving communication. The best way I see one addressing this problem is, if you've got a new driver that's joined in, the first time that he gets paid, why don't you walk up to him in the belt, or get your BC or manager to walk up to him in the belt? Get him, just ask him if you have questions, understand if he's got any doubts, keep an open line of communication. That small effort goes a long way. And I'm sure Pam, you're having, 80 routes, can easily speak to that. That Absolutely. Having an open door policy, I know it sometimes gets too much, but being available for an employee goes a significant distance in making sure that they feel that they're valued, they're heard, and problems that they have can be addressed.
Yes.
Pam, could you describe a situation you faced in that regard?
Well, one of the things that we used to do was, of course, we had an employee packet. So now if a contractor doesn't have a formal employee packet, that's fine. What I would suggest that most and all contractors do is definitely have your pay schedule and your pay scale spelled out in writing, because that's the one thing you really want to try to avoid is having questions on payday. Because I've been in this industry so long, I have literally had drivers not show up because their direct deposit was late getting to the bank, or they thought that they had been shorted when they really weren't. They thought they worked more days in that pay period than they did, and they just don't come to work. So if that is already spelled out in writing, that's great. That's a win-win for you and the driver. I wanted to hit on the culture. When we did a roundtable with some drivers not too long ago, Shivam, we got a lot of great feedback, and you already hit on they want to feel valued. And you know, any recruiting service could do you a solid and get you candidates. It's up to the contractors to keep them, and so they stick. You have 100% control of the culture. I get it that the loaders are not good and the volume is too heavy or not heavy enough and the packages are too big, but what are you doing to make your drivers feel valued? So that's something that only you can do as a contractor. You know what you're available to do, you know what you can do financially, but coming in the mornings and saying hello on a hot day, bringing in Gatorade, you know, bringing biscuits, or just, you know, walking the belt with a notepad and saying, hey, you know, what would you like to see our contract? What would you like to see us as a group of employees do different or better or not do so much? You know, just asking questions and getting feedback from drivers is so huge. I can't tell you, for all the contractors that I've worked for, that I've been a contractor, for the employees I've had, that is something that is across the board 100%. Everybody agrees that the drivers want to feel valued and they want to be heard. So trying to mold a culture that they're respected and valued, that's one of your greatest assets, for sure.
Absolutely. You know, when I start with saying 70% attrition, I want to also point out that there are two extreme ends to that. We work with contractors who on average have drivers who've been with them for about 6 years, which is exponential. You know, the benefit to their business is significant when they have experienced drivers who know the route, who are, you know, who are trained. You know, they save significantly on retraining. They save significantly on, you know, low productivity. And then we obviously see the other extreme where the attrition is significantly higher. And unfortunately, if being understaffed is a downward spiral, right? If you're understaffed, there's more pressure on the other drivers. That causes, you know, more discontent, and it just kind of spirals out of control. So, you know, that obviously making sure that you've got enough drivers goes a long way to making sure the drivers stay. And you know, it's kind of self-fulfilling, but it is how it is.
Well, I'll tell a story. A friend of mine who's a contractor, and I get it that the volume was not there this year, not like they promised it would be. We did not have that surge during the 6 weeks of peak. And so everybody took FedEx's advice and went out and hired a bunch of drivers. Well, I have a friend who's a contractor who the week of Christmas let go 16 drivers because he just was not capable of keeping them on staff. Now his BC has been on a route since Christmas, 3 days a week. And I was talking to his BC the other day, and he literally told me that he was ready to throw in the towel. And this contractor is a small contractor, and they have one BC. So if he quits, this contractor is definitely going to be up the proverbial, you know, river without a paddle. So what do you suggest in times like that, Shivam?
You know, there's no easy answer. I understand that FedEx contracting now more than ever is a thin margin business. Carrying extra bodies is difficult. It's expensive. The best way one can do is have a consistent pipeline of eligible candidates. You may not hire everyone, but if you've got people going through the first aid banding system, if you've got people who are coming in for road tests, if you've got people in getting their drug tests done, you've got this pipeline built up, which is available for you to tap into. So while you may not be able to afford having 2 people extra on roster, but you've always got a steady flow of people coming through the door. And that solves 2 problems as well, right? A lot of contractors, you know, who are not recruiting consistently fall behind and all of a sudden have to hire the first person that walks in the door. And that's the worst position to be in, because you're not really deciding, you're just hiring a body on a seat. You're not being able to evaluate, you're not being able to be picky, and you get what you sow, and you end up with low quality drivers. What we hope that your successful contractors are in a position where they have 4 to 5 people to pick one out of. And when we make it that competitive, that's when you can find the good drivers.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I've learned over the years in this business is bad help is worse than no help sometimes. Because, and the people that have logged in, if you've been in this industry for, I'd say maybe 3 months, you've already experienced a driver who you wish you did not hire. I've had drivers bring trucks back after delivering one package. I've had drivers dispatch the building and come back after they delivered no packages. I mean, and having people like that, I would have rather not had them, and I would have run the route myself. And I get it that it's hard to carry extra people on your roster. And a lot of times you just have to get creative with your scheduling. Like I mentioned, some of the people that are burnt out from peak might want to go back to a 5-day work schedule. Patients, we're still in a pandemic. It's not as bad as it was, but people still get sick. Then they're out for 10 days. There's definitely pros to having people that can cover routes. And I mean, most terminals now have contingency area that you can cover an area that's not in your own CSA. So you can still use that body to make money.
So, Pam, I have an interesting insight here as well. So Amazon typically makes people work 4 days a week rather than 5. Mm-hmm. And they give longer hours, so people are making similar amounts per week. But by making someone work 4 days a week rather than 5, he is significantly more likely to be wanting to take up an extra day of work if available than if someone's already working 5 days or 6 and you're asking him to come in and cover one more person's call off. So that's a very important strategy. It's not that easy to implement very often, and it does cause a lot of pushback. But when you recruit new people, they could be on a 4-day, 10-hour schedule rather than a 5-day, 8-hour schedule.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
So, taken from the fact that, not being in a position to have less people, I also wanted to quickly demonstrate the amount of time it takes to recruit someone. While most people on this call would be very well aware, I want to just, get it out to those who are not that familiar. Recruiting a FedEx driver takes 14 days. And that's just how it is. And that's not going to change. So we need to adapt around that. And thus, recruiting is preemptive rather than reactive. You cannot start finding a driver when you have someone who's not turned up and you've got a route set in. This is 14 days that requires effort, that requires high touch. Getting a candidate through the whole system requires multiple follow-ups, requires multiple phone calls, text messages, email addresses, and still you're going to have a significant number of people just fall through for reasons which are just beyond our comprehension. But that is something that every FedEx contractor needs to be aware, be prepared, and plan for.
So basically, Shivam, they need to be proactive instead of reactive.
Absolutely. The only way you can have a steady pipeline flowing is if you're constantly, feeding it candidates. Because effort done today is going to bear fruit 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line. Mm-hmm. So, adding up to that, recruiting is a lot of effort. Like Pam said, when he started, it's pretty much a full-time job. And we understand that every contractor has it on his mind. We wanted to just put through the numbers that we have seen. Based on our experience, for every 100 candidates that apply on Indeed, Facebook, Craigslist, less than 4 are eligible. And typically, like I said before, 4 eligible people should result in one good hire. You need to see 4 people in front of you. You need to spend 15 minutes with them. You need to go with your gut. But that's kind of the ratio that we have seen for a good contractor to be hiring the best talent available. From the 100 people that apply, no matter what pre-screening questions you put in Indeed, you're not going to get more than 45 people who have that 1-year commercial driving experience, live in a location within 25 miles, and other criteria that you may have. Even when those 45 people have been, meet the criteria, you've made contact with them, once you explain them the job, the pay, the schedule, all of a sudden you're going to find less than 20 people who are interested, who want to go ahead and get the First Advantage process started. And everybody knows how frustrating First Advantage is. Everyone knows what a killer that is to the whole process. But in our experience, for 20 people who agree to start First Advantage, only 6 people successfully completed. And that changes. You could choose to spend 20 minutes with a candidate before you even send the link. And that will obviously significantly increase the throughput. But if you just pre-screen them, if you've had like a 5-minute conversation and you're sending a link, you're going to see about 25-30% people actually get it done. And again, this changes from every market. For every 6 people that completed, about 4 people clear the background. I've seen this drop to 50% in certain markets, and I've seen this being close to 90% in a lot of markets. So that obviously varies for each micro market. However, and it doesn't stop there. Like I said in the last slide, by the time these 4 people are eligible, it's already been 10 to 12 days. And especially in this labor market, a significant proportion of the people that became eligible would have found something by then, or all of a sudden they're just ghosting you, they're not picking up your calls. And you're pretty much left with a couple of people who'd come in for a road test, and hopefully you'd get one good hire out of that system.
Absolutely. Those numbers are really shocking though. And it's scary, but that's even more reason why people need to be proactive with this hiring process.
Absolutely. And the data that I'm demonstrating is from over 100,000 applicants that were put into our system just in Q4 of 2021. So every contractor is different, every location is different, but this is the general statistics that we have seen play out. And unfortunately, there's not much one can do to improve these statistics. You could spend 15 minutes extra in pre-screening them, but that's just time that a lot of contractors just don't have. But so this is a full-time job. This has to be given the time it requires if you want the results that you need.
Agreed. And I will make a note here. I have found out from people failing the drug test for an application that they are eligible to reapply 1 year after the initial failed drug test. But I mean, that's up to you. If you want to keep that person's name, if everything else about them was great, and they just happen to have a bad drug test, you can say, hey, I'll call you in a year. So yeah, that's always it's always an option.
I've seen a lot of people, a lot of drivers, a lot of candidates are very, forthcoming that they're like, hey, I'm not going to pass the drug test, but I really want to do the job. So some contractors have the option of the L10 program, but a drug test is not required. It doesn't come under the DOT standards. So one can always start someone in L10, give him a couple months to clean himself up, and then graduate him to an L20 eventually.
Okay, that's a great idea.
And the only one way that you can get a little faster is L10. That obviously eliminates the drug test, the road test, and a couple more steps. And things obviously move a lot faster, especially around peak when people are in a rush, especially if they have L10 trucks, which is obviously a better place to start a new driver out anyways. They process drivers as L10 and then eventually graduate them up.
So from your perspective, do the L10 applicants, because they don't have to take a road test or the drug test, they get through and get processed quicker?
Yes, they definitely do. And in addition, they do not require 1 year of commercial driving experience, right? So out of the 100 candidates who apply, the amount of people that you could potentially speak with is significantly higher.
Got it.
And I also wanted to quickly just speak about the 100 candidates that apply, right? Getting 100 candidates to apply about a year ago, maybe two, was super simple. You just post a free job on Indeed, and the people come. I remember I used to have to turn notifications off, turn email notifications off because you got flooded with this. However, that's obviously changed. It's getting better, but it's still nowhere close to what it used to be. And we're seeing it up to almost $12 to $14 for an applicant. Indeed charges, $12 to $14 for an applicant. Craigslist, Facebook, they all fall in that same range. And it's expensive, getting interested candidates is becoming more and more expensive. And you want, if you spend all that money getting these candidates interested, you want the most amount of people go through. And we tell everyone that this is high touch recruiting. This is not the traditional recruiting that, recruiter sends an email, 4 steps to do, and you'd expect the candidate to be a self-starter, that you get everything done. This is just not the demographic that you might be expected to deal with in their previous job or profession. These people need to be reminded. They need to be called. They need to be texted. They need to be, badgered effectively. When we schedule drug tests or medical card appointments, we very often, our recruiters are waking candidates up at 8 a.m., reminding them of their schedule. We're following up with them. We're making sure that they're in their car. It's just part of the job. It's part for the coast. You need to maintain a high touch. And that's why we always suggest that, the contractor, very often we see, contractor's family member or their VC is in charge of recruiting. And it needs to be in the center of your attention, because you need to know who's going for the drug test on Tuesday. You need to make sure you call them at 8 a.m. You need to make sure you call them at 9:30. That, hey, did you get it done? Do you need this rescheduled? It's just the nature of the job. It requires high touch points.
Now, Shivam, I believe that once the candidate is sent the electronic drug test form, doesn't that have an expiration date on it as well?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yes, it does. So I don't know why First Advantage does this. So First Advantage, I believe they try to create a fear of missing out to the candidate. The email typically says 5 to 7 days. Mm-hmm. But we know, upon speaking with First Advantage, that those digital drug tests are valid for 30 days.
Okay. Got it. So this is just another reason why it's important for a contractor to have an outside recruiting service, unless they do have an admin or, a wife or a husband or a BC who's not on a truck every day, where they could take this on. But it's, trust me, from firsthand knowledge, I used to recruit myself. It is a headache. And First Advantage is not fun to deal with.
Yeah, no, I understand. So I don't know if everyone needs a recruiter. All I know is that everyone, and it could be themselves, but everyone needs to spend a significant amount of time recruiting. And that's kind of the only thing I can summarize my experience being, that this is not rocket science. There's no secret sauce to this. The only thing is time. Yes, some people have more expertise, some people are more inclined to it. But if you're able to dedicate enough time and enough attention to this problem, you will be able to solve it. Time sometimes when it's a smaller contractor, when you're running this on your own, you're on the floor, you may not have that time. But if you've got a VC, an admin, a family member who can help you, that takes care of it. But yes, absolutely, Pam. If you're just not finding that time, or if you have better uses of your time, a recruiting service would definitely help. So, that's pretty much this summary of my slides. I keep telling everyone, how do you not be a person shot? You just never stop hiring. And maybe hiring is not the right word. It might be called, it might be recruiting. The idea is that a pipeline needs to keep flowing. Your first advantage should always have people in progress. Your first advantage should always have eligible candidates you haven't called. You need that flow to make sure that A, you're always covered for attrition. B, you might be in a position to beat out the bad apples, hire better people, improve your team, improve their efficiency, make yourself more profitable. I hope the last 15 minutes have been educational. I'm open to questions. Happy to answer any questions, Pam. If you have, anyone else has, you can take it over.
Yep, Taylor just asked one, and I was typing a response, but I'll let you take it. He asked, or she asked, I'm sorry, Taylor, it's a unisex name. Okay, so missing the drug test will not disqualify them for a year?
But missing the, in sense, if they don't turn up?
That's what I was typing, because technically, no, if the link expires, then that's not them failing a drug test, if I'm correct, Shivam. So you can, for First Advantage, resend them that link, correct?
Yeah. You could, if someone for whatever reason didn't go for a test for the first 30 days, you can get First Advantage to reset it and get them to go again. Won't disqualify them. If they fail a drug test, that's a whole different matter.
Right. Okay, well, I thank everybody for joining, and I hope that this was informative. I hope it was educational. I hope you guys got some really good points on how to continue to add drivers to your business and be successful. I wish everybody the best, and please be safe out there. Thanks for your time, Shivam.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Pam.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.